जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन बल्लभवा गिरिवर धारी। जय गोपी जन बल्लभवा गिरिवर धारी। यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना। यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन बल्लभवा गिरिवर धारी। जय गोपी जन बल्लभवा गिरिवर धारी। यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना। यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन बल्लभवा गिरिवर धारी। यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना। यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Kishore Kishori Jaya Kishore Kishori Jaya Kishore Kishori Jaya Kishore Kishori Jaya Jagatnatha Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jai Gauranitai Jai Gauranitai Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai 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 Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Acharya Shruta Shatya Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Granth-raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaivam narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tatto jayamudiriye nashte prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya भगवतीरुत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Canto 9, chapter 18, and we are going to do from text number 6 to text number 17. So we have text number 16 on board. So I will read the translation until we reach text 16, and then we can chant together. Shukdev Goswami said, one day Rishabparva's daughter Sarashmishta, who was innocent but angry by nature, was walking with Devayani, the daughter of Shukracharya, and with thousands of friends in the palace garden. The garden was full of lotuses and trees of flowers and fruits, and was inhabited by sweetly singing birds and bumblebees. When the young lotus-eyed girls came to the bank of a reservoir of water they wanted to enjoy by bathing. Thus, they left their clothing on the bank and began sporting, throwing water on one another. While sporting in the water, the girls suddenly saw Lord Shiva passing by, seated on the back of his bull with his wife Parvati. Ashamed because they were naked, the girls quickly got out of the water and covered themselves with their garments. Sharmishta unknowingly put Devayani's dress on her own body, thus angering Devayani, who then spoke as follows. Oh, just see the activities of this servant maid Sharmishta. Disregarding all etiquette, she has put on my dress, just like a dog snatching clarified butter meant for use in sacrifice. We are among the qualified Brahmanas who are accepted as the face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas have created the entire universe by their austerity, and they always keep the absolute truth within the core of their hearts. They have directed the path of good fortune, the path of Vedic civilization, and because they are the only worshipable objects within this world, they are offered prayers and worshipped even by the great demigods, the directors of the various planets, and even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, the Supreme Purifier, the husband of the Goddess of Fortune. And we are even more respectable because we are in the dynasty of Bhrigu. Yet, although this woman's father, being among the demons, is our disciple, she has put on my dress exactly like a Shudra taking charge of Vedic knowledge. Shukdev Goswami said, when thus rebuked in cruel words, Sarashmita was very angry. Breathing heavily like a serpent and biting her lower lip with her teeth, she spoke to the daughter of Shukracharya as follows. Atam vrittam avigya Atma vrittam avigyaya Kathaste bahu bishuki Kathaste bahu bhikshuki Kimna pratikasheshvakam Grahan bali bhujo yatha Atma vrittam avigyaya Kathase bahu bhikshuki Kimna pratishka sheshashkam Grahan bali bhujo yatha Atma vrittam avigya Kathase bahu bhikshuki किं न प्रातीक्षके स्वास्कम् ग्रहान् बलिभुजो यथा आत्मावृत्तं विज्ञाय कथसे बहु भिक्षुकी किं न प्रतीक्षके स्वाकम् ग्रहान् बलिभुजो यथा आत्मावृत्तं विज्ञाय कथसे बहु भिक्षुकी न प्राप्तेष्माकिकम् गृहान् बालिभुजो यथा आत्मावृत्तम् अविज्ञाय कथसे बहु भिक्षुकी किं न प्रतीक्षके अस्माकम् ग्रहान् बलिभुजो यथा. Synonyms. Atmavritam, one's own position. Avigyaya, without understanding. Kathase, you are talking madly. Bahu, so much. Bhikshuki, beggar. Kim, whether. Na, not. Pratikshake, you wait. Asmakam, our. Grahan, at the house. Balibhuja, crows. Yatha, like. Translations and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. You beggar, since you don't understand your position, why should you unnecessarily talk so much? Don't all of you wait at our house, depending on us for your livelihood like crows? Purport. Crows have no independent life. They fully depend on the remnants of foodstuffs thrown by householders into the garbage tank. Therefore, because a Brahmana depends on his disciples, when Sharmishta was heavily rebuked by Devayani, she charged Devayani with belonging to a family of crow-like beggars. It is the nature of women to fight verbally at even a slight provocation. As we see from this incident, this has been their nature for a long, long time. Text 17. Using such unkind words, Sharmishta rebuked Devayani, the daughter of Shukracharya. In anger, she took away Devayani's garments and threw Devayani into a well. Om Agyantimarandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kirpa Sindhu Bhayaivacha Patitanam Pavane Bhayo Vaishnave Bhayo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is getting very interesting. Last time I was here on the Vyasasana, we were speaking from the encounter between Pururava and Urvashi. And in that, Urvashi was very forthcoming, and she was describing the characteristics of a woman, how cunning and deceiving. I never thought that women have all those qualities, but now I'm learning. So here, Srila Prabhupada is describing in text number 16 more qualities or nature of a woman. So as I read this, I used to respect women a lot, and now I respect them even more, especially the women, who are there in my life, around me, and so on, because they do not fit into this picture at all. The kind of nature they have, the way they conduct themselves, is very, very different than what I am reading here. So it's really a big compliment to Mataji's in our environment. So having said that, we'll still like to go through what's happening here and try to see what lessons and points we can take home. So the title of the chapter is King Yayati Regains His Youth. So he is the second son of King Nahusu. And King Nahusu was, he offended wife of Lord Indra, Sachi Devi, and he was cursed to come on earth as a serpent. So he wanted to hand over his kingdom to his eldest son, whose name was Yati. But Yati was not interested in that. He wanted to focus all his, he wanted to focus totally on self-realization, and he was not at all interested in becoming the king, so he refused. And then Yayati, he became the king. Now, as we are reading in this several verses, these two girls, Devayani and Sharmishta, they were friends. But this also indicates the nature of friendship. So it is more applicable in material world, in today's situation, in Kali Yuga, where the friendship is very, very conditional. You are favorable to me, you agree with me, you get along with me, we are friends. But the moment you say something against me, you criticize any of my activities, immediately we are enemies. So this is the nature of living entities today. And it is not like now we are finding that even not it is that this is today, even earlier this was the nature of people, especially women. So the important thing here to know is that how and why we in our environment we are able to manage and cooperate with each other. And what I heard is that so long Krishna is in the center of our activities, we get along with each other very well. We can be friends, we can cooperate with each other, and we can be civilized. We can talk to each other in a proper, friendly manner, even if we have difference of opinion. But if Krishna is not in the center, then this so-called friendship or so-called cooperation is very, very short-lived. And immediately, as soon as there is some disagreement, there will be, the relationship is spoiled. It is no more the same relationship. So here, let me tell you a little bit about the story of this Devayani and Sharmishta and Yayati. So after what we read just now, after this, as you know, we read in the text that they were sporting in the water, and after that when Lord Shiva was passing by on his bull, they covered their clothes, and as Sharmishta wore clothes of Devayani was very upset, and she said very harsh words to Sharmishta. And Sharmishta was not one to accept those things very, in a submissive way. She also reacted, she was very much provoked by the words of Devayani, and she reacted in a very aggressive way. And so much so that she took the clothes of Devayani and threw her in a well. And as, Providence had it, King Yayati, who was in that area, he was thirsty and he came to the well to drink water. And when he just looked in the well, he saw a young, beautiful girl there without clothes. So as per the norms at that time, and as a decency, he offered her his upper cloth so that she could cover her body. And then he offered to take her out, and he gave her her hand. So she held her hand, and then he pulled her out. So as she came out, she said that she introduced herself, that I am daughter of Shukracharya, and since you have hold my hand, you are now my husband. So that was, there is a saying also that the father gave his daughter's hand to so and so. So that also is relevant, that once the hand is given, once a man holds the hand of a woman, she would be his wife. Today we shake hands with so many women in time, so and so many women shakes hands with so many men. So please don't think that okay, everybody is their husband or vice versa. That is not applicable. So then King Yayati was a little bit surprised, because she introduced herself as daughter of a Brahmana, and she is getting married to a Kshatriya. King Yayati is a Kshatriya. So then she explained that she was cursed not to marry a Brahman. And so she will be never able to find a Brahman man as her husband. So she has to marry somebody else, and he being a Kshatriya, he is a good candidate for being her husband, and also because he was holding her hand. So this is how, and just it's very interesting that why she was cursed. Are you familiar? Is anybody familiar with that? So how we are doing with the time. So her father, Shukracharya, was a great acharya. He was a great pandit, a great Brahman, and he had very mystic powers and also very, very knowledgeable. Something called Mrityu Sanjeevani mantra. He had the knowledge about that mantra, and that mantra would give him powers to, somebody who has died, he could bring him back to life. He has that kind of power. So, but he was spiritual master of demons. So whenever there would be a war between demons and demigods, demigods will be always at a loss, because demons' spiritual master had the power to bring them back to life even after they were killed. But demigods did not enjoy that benefit. So they went to their spiritual master, Brihaspati, and complained that, when we go to play, it's like two teams playing a match, and one team is already getting a big advantage over the other team. So the team who didn't have the advantage will complain about it. So same way, demigods went to their spiritual master and complained. And then he made an arrangement. He sent his son to Shukracharya to learn that mantra from him, Mrityu Sanjeevani mantra from Shukracharya. So he went there, and he introduced himself as a young Brahman boy, who is in search of knowledge, and he offered to be his student. And he said, in return, I will do whatever services you ask me to do. So Shukracharya accepted him as a student. It's a long story, that, but eventually while he was there, Shukracharya's daughter, Devayani, she fell in love with Brihaspati's son, whose name was Kasha. So, you know, as he spent a long time, a couple of years there, and eventually he learned the Mrityu Sanjeevani mantra, and then he wanted to leave. At that time, Devayani said, you cannot leave because I love you and I want to marry you. But he refused. So she cursed him. And she cursed him that though you know the mantra, you will be never able to use it. So he cursed her back that you will never find a Brahman as your husband. So she knew that she will be never able to find Brahman as a husband. So she saw that a Kshatriya, King Yayati, is there, and she should marry him. So this is how their marriage took place. So now this is the story part. Now, what are the points to take home? What are the application points for us from these discussions? So when I was preparing for this class, I felt that we have personal egoistic desires, and so long you know, everything is moving smoothly, my desires are getting fulfilled, I am quite happy, I appear to be a very calm and nice person. But moment there is some disturbance, what I desire and what I want is not getting fulfilled, then I become very volatile. And this is what is exhibited here also from the discussion that is taking place between Devayani and Sharmishta. Just because she picked up the clothes of Devayani, Sharmishta got such a big, you know, lecture from her so-called friend. So, and then she also reacted the same way. Now we find that Devayani is daughter of Shukracharya, who is a very, very learned person. She is daughter of a Brahman. But what is the basic or the main important quality of a Brahman? The Brahmans are, humility is one of the main important characteristic of a Brahman. But there is, when we are reading this text, humility is nowhere in the picture. So this indicates again, going back to the point I made earlier, that if Krishna is not in the center of our activities, then our behavior and our conduct can be very, very offensive and very, very unfriendly. Then the other thing which we will find here in these texts and future texts, also in the text which we have read earlier, that it's very difficult if we are not engaged in the service to Supreme Personality of Godhead to control our sense gratification propensity. And in all these texts, especially in this particular canto, this thing is highlighted in a very, very clear manner. We will see as we go forward in this particular chapter that Yayati not only married Devayani, he also married Sharmishta. And so, because again it is just a sense gratification program. And we will also have seen in the previous verses, as we are going to see here in this particular chapter, that there is no end to sense gratification. It's like adding ghee to fire. You try to satisfy your senses, they become more wild. And then you try to do something about it, they become again more aggressive, more wilder. So, and eventually it becomes, it's disgusting. You know, one realizes eventually that what I am doing, why I am going for all this, because I am trying to, you know, satisfy these things, and still it is becoming more and more, their demand is more and more. So, Srila Prabhupada explains that the only way to control our senses is to use them in service of Krishna. So, Krishna is the controller of, we call him, Krishna, one of the names of Krishna is Govinda, because he has complete control on his senses, and our aim should be to satisfy the senses of the sense controller. That way only we can keep our senses under control and save ourselves from the situations as we have been reading, and we are reading in this particular chapter. Now, when I was reading, the other thing which came to my mind was about the devotee of a Lord. How would he be reacting, or how would he be conducting himself in situations like what we have seen in last few chapters, or we are reading in this particular chapter. So the example of Haridas Thakur came to my mind. So Haridas Thakur was approached by one of the most beautiful prostitutes of that area. And what did he do? He not only, he didn't fall into the trap, he was able to influence and convert, transform that prostitute in a devotee. So that is the power of a devotee. So here, when we are reading about Pururava, we are reading about Yayati and so on, we find that the moment they see a beautiful woman, they immediately, they lost it. They just are running after that woman. They are ready to, Pururava was ready to give up everything he had just to be in association of Urvashi. So again, it is just the point I'm repeating is that engage yourself in Krishna's service, and that way we can have control and we can save ourselves from similar situations. It is very, very easy to fall in this trap. It is not like we have to, make some efforts. It happens. And we have so many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam. And these are the examples of not ordinary people. Even very learned saints and Brahmins, they fell into that trap. We have the story of Vishwamitra and Menaka, correct? So Menaka just had to appear in ashram of Vishwamitra, and just by hearing the sound of her anklets, Vishwamitra's all meditation, which all his tapasya for several hundreds of years was gone. He just totally again was obsessed with Menaka. So for us, we have been very fortunate that we have been provided this kind of an environment where we can engage ourselves in Krishna's service. And so it helps us in two ways. It helps us to conduct ourselves properly. It helps us to conduct in a civilized way with others, in a friendly way, and not to react the way we are seeing here two young ladies are reacting when somebody objected to what they were doing, or one of them was doing. Or the other way is that we have a kind of opportunity to use our skills, to use our capabilities in Krishna service. And by doing that, we are kind of having some kind of a control on our services. So, finally, I would like to close by saying that it's only a devotee who could rise above the modes of material energy and engage in Krishna service. Anybody else who is thinking that they will be able to do that on their own, it's just not going to happen. And as has been, explained here in these chapters. So, how much time? We have still some time. So, since we have time, I could elaborate a little bit more also on this particular part which Srila Prabhupada is explaining, that Brahmanas were dependent on Kshatriyas. And here also it is exactly the same situation. Devyani is daughter of a Brahman, and Sharmishta is daughter of the king, who is a Kshatriya. And it is because Devyani had no humility, and she was, it is true that even Kshatriyas, they respect Brahmanas, and all the great kings, they had Brahmanas as their counselors. They would take advice from them in running their kingdom. But here we don't see that kind of an approach at all. Here what we see is it is true that Shukracharya was a great Acharya, very, very knowledgeable person. Devyani, being his daughter, should have exhibited some of the qualities of a Brahmana, which she did not. So she is like, very, very proud of her birth in the family of Shukracharya. And again, when we hear Srila Prabhupada's purport, he emphasizes that one is not known, or one shouldn't be categorized by virtue of the birth. One, depending on the qualities of a person, he could be categorized as a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. So, though she was born in the family of a Brahman, she did not have those qualities, so she is not worth calling a Brahman woman, Brahman girl. So that's another point. And about depending on us for your livelihood like crows. So this is another important thing that Devyani had to hear. Just because she said something which was very, very provoking to Sharmishta, she had to listen to all this. Sharmishta just then is explaining to her, and Srila Prabhupada says that she's telling Devyani that you belong to a family of crow-like beggars. So imagine, this is so disrespectful to say to another person. Even if, that person has said something to offend you, still to react in such a way is not really worthy. And this is again reflects the consciousness of a person. And for us to understand is that whatever may be the circumstances, whatever may be the provocation, but we should remember our etiquettes, and we should respond in a friendly and let us say in a respectful manner. Even if it is not friendly, if we have difference of opinion, if we don't agree with another person, some person may be trying to offend us, but still we should be respectful toward everybody else, all others, and even those who are trying to provoke us. So I would like to stop here. Thank you so much. Requesting for questions, discussions.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your class. Sorry I came in late. I looked at the verse yesterday, but I wasn't sure if it was today. But I guess a comment and a question. I'll try to formulate the question since I only came in briefly. It's Happy Black Friday, first of all. And it's befitting that this verse is on Black Friday about fashion and women are fighting over clothes. And the one thing I appreciate about the spiritual teachings that they describe that there's fashion on the outside and fashion on the inside. And you were mentioning that Devayani didn't have the fashion on the inside. She didn't have the humility, and therefore she was always disturbed. So my question is that in the material world, you could get what you want if you're beautiful. You could seduce men and get what you want. If you have money, you could get what you want. If you have prestigious education, you usually could get what you want. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, we hear that the Lord is not seduced by one's beauty. He's not impressed by one's education, or etc. So my question is, even when we come to Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavatam it says, Shrimvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravanam Kirtana. Even when one comes to Bhagavatam class, by Krishna's mercy, he'll dress you for success on the inside, but still sometimes when you come to Bhagavatam, you feel like you're not getting those qualities. So why should I come to Bhagavatam if, Krishna says he'll dress me in those qualities, he'll make me look fashionable, even though you can't see the fashion, but still, I have no taste for Krishna consciousness. So how do we maintain that determination, that faith, essentially?
So in Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada says two things are very important. One is endeavor, and the other one is dharya, patience. So, because we are surrounded by such great distractions, and if I may even use the word provocations, that it is very easy to get disturbed. But if we continue our endeavor and have patience, then gradually the results will also come. Another important thing which I emphasize in my presentations is the association of devotees. Because if we associate with devotees, we are going to learn some good qualities from them. It's very common to there is a phrase which one says that you are known by the kind of company you keep. So when I was a school kid, my parents made sure that I do not associate with kids who are indulging in bad activities. And even when you grow up, you don't want to be seen with people who are doing drugs or drunkards or going to nightclubs every day and so on. So why? Because if you associate with them, then you are likely to acquire those habits, those qualities. So that's why it is emphasized for us that we should always be associating with devotees, because that way we are going to learn from them, we are going to acquire the qualities of a devotee, and that will help us to remain calm and conduct ourselves properly. Okay, thank you. Any other? Suval Prabhu.
Just reflecting on the, these interactions of so-called friends. Well, actually, they were friends, and they were sharing sort of a very jolly situation and playing and the whole thing. And obviously Devayani showed that, because of that lack of humility, as you point out, she lost it, when, so she showed exactly more the depth of that relationship, the fact that she was offended just because the friend touched her clothes. So it was, and then she was able to say those things were very hurtful. Yeah. So putting yourself in the position of Sharmishta. You know, that was, as you say, very provocative and very hurtful things that she said. Now, you brought out that, and I wanted to ask you if you can, you know, maybe comment a little further on the proper way of react when one is on the receiving end of something, you know, hurtful in a relationship that, you know, you're sort of open like that, you know, my friend, or, you know, when you have that type of relationship. And naturally, you know, most of us were not pure devotees, so we don't have full control of our false ego, so we do get hurt. And sometimes our buttons are pressed, you know, by that, you know, sort of like what we perceive as
triggers,
you know, the triggers, hurtful words and this and that, and there's a reaction. And obviously, just like Devayani had that, you know, she, as you said, she had to hear then the insulting words that Shamishta was, you know, and not only that, she went physical.
Yeah.
She threw it in the well, and you know how wells are in India, you know, it's like, you know, it's not just a little pond, you know, it's a hole down there. I mean, it's like basically throw it to die in there, you know. So how you control these things, you know?
Before I come to that, I would like to you know, share with you incident which I heard. So in today's situation, this kind of a behavior is very normal. You know, we say harsh thing to others, and then we are ready to hear harsh thing from the other person. It's very, very normal. And somebody gave me an example. When several years ago, I was learning German language, and our teacher was from Germany. So he explained that if an accident occurs, if a car, you know, your car touches somebody else's car, it is very common, very natural for both the drivers to come out and shout at each other. So one will shout and the other will shout louder, and then, you know, they are shouting on top of their voice, both of them, and it's quite normal. So he said once something like that happened, and because this German, my teacher had lived in India, so he had learned a little bit more patience. So he said he was driving in Germany and his car touched other car, and as expected, the driver from the other car came out and started shouting at him. And he apologized to the German teacher. He's apologizing to him that I'm very sorry. And this man is not even realizing that this fellow is apologizing. He's still shouting very aggressively and all that. And then he's still, you know, with folded hand, he's saying, I'm really sorry, please forgive me. And he said it took him some time to realize that the other guy is not at all aggressive. He's so quiet, he's so apologetic. And then he said, oh, I'm sorry, I said very harsh things to you. So it took him some time. So we are so much conditioned these days to hear, to say things without thinking, and to then expect something in return. But if even one of the persons involved in such a interaction is a little bit more balanced and has respect for the other person, then we can save the situation. And so, like the particular point you made or your question you asked, if something provocative or insulting or hurtful is said to us, the real test of our patience and the real test of whatever we are doing in our devotion comes at that time. And if at that time we are able to control our feelings, if we are able to control our anger, then we have won the war. Later on, the other person will also realize that maybe I shouldn't have said. I mean, we have experienced this in our lives, that sometimes some people will say hurtful things to you, and you just, you know, kind of keep quiet or just, you know, ignore. Then later on, the person approaches you and says, I'm very sorry that I said those things to you. I did not mean it. I was angry, or I overreacted, and so on. So it is just Very simple trick. Either you can get triggered and react immediately, and then we see a full-scale war like we saw here, or just control yourself, and then the situation will calm down very quickly. And it will be for the benefit of both. It is not that if I have not reacted, why we react? Because I feel that if I don't react the same way, I'm considered a meek person. I see like I have lost the war. So we want to react because I want to be equal. I want to be superior in my reaction. But if we just take one moment, because it brings me to another important point, is the third, and I feel that if we remind ourselves regularly, then it will solve all our interaction or problems. Is third verse of Shikshashtakam. If we respect others and don't expect any respect in return, we are okay. We are good. And we have to remind, it's not very easy. It's the easy way is to react immediately the same way. But if we just, kind of condition ourselves that, okay, in such a situation, this is what, or maybe like they say, count up to 10 when you are angry. One of those, we can develop our own system that how we react in such a situation. And hopefully the other person will also realize that he or she shouldn't have been so harsh. Or one can be, yeah, I guess so. Any other comments? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for a wonderful class. So you gave the two examples, like one is Devyani and Sarmishta and the Haridas Thakur. Two are like the extremes. One is where we don't want to be, one is where we are not there. But we are on the process of, we say it as cultivating humility. So when we are cultivating humility, we came across the situations like how Subal Prabhu is explaining, where two persons are interacting and there is a conflict, or one person is reacting and we are on the other side. Like you are saying, we tolerate it with patience, but once that enters the heart that it is there, when we see that person again, we judge that person or we see him as a conditioned. So even though we tolerated at that situation, how to be, like if we have humility, the real humility which we cultivate, we see ourselves as a servant of servant, not as somebody as conditioned. So how to come to that place, or is there any person in the scriptures who came?
So I can try to think of this in our real life situations. So like you said, if somebody says something hurtful to us, even if we don't react to it, we develop some negative feelings towards that person, correct? So then there are two important things. One is our relationship with that person. That's very important. And then secondly, that not at that time, but maybe at a later situation when the other person is more, has calmed down, is more balanced and can, think rationally. At that time, you can mention that, you said all those things to me and they are not true, for example. I can give you a very simple example that you are doing some service. Say you are doing some service in the kitchen and somebody walks in and sees that, okay, what you are doing is maybe wrong, or at least that's what the other person feels, that what you are doing is wrong. And the other person shouts at you or said some words in anger. Now, if you at that time react, the other person, it may, add fuel to fire. So, but later on, when the situation has calmed down, you can explain to that person that you shared your observation with me in a very, very aggressive way, but this is what I was told by so-and-so to do, and this is what I was doing. So I am not that way at fault. So even though I may be doing things wrong, but I was carrying out the instructions of my superior, for example. That could be one situation. Or you can explain that, there could be another situation where you could explain what you were doing and why you were doing, and so you can explain your point of view also. And you will see that when these things are said in a proper, respectful way, they have a different impact altogether. Even if you were wrong, I will just say that even if you were wrong, and you say, you apologize and genuinely that, okay, I'm sorry that what I'm doing is so totally wrong, please forgive me for that, then it also gives other person an opportunity to calm down and be not as aggressive and as hurtful as when he or she started. So how we handle this situation is totally up to us. We cannot blame the other person for it, because other person may be the cause of the provocation, but the reaction and or how do we react, it is in our hand. And there, how we exercise our control is important. Yes.
But some people have seen that they're not very open to suggestions sometimes. How do you deal with that?
So sometimes it is the relationship issue. See, I can give you a very simple example. Now, suppose I do not enjoy a very healthy relationship with him. If I go and ask him to do certain things, he's definitely not really going to take it in a nice way. But if somebody else with whom he shares a very good relationship, if that person comes and explains to him, he will have a totally different attitude. So, now one situation could be that knowing fully well that, I do not have a very friendly relationship, I still go to him and provoke him every now and then. I told you last time not to do it like this, why you are doing it again? And then he will, even if he out of respect doesn't say anything, he will feel, I'll keep on doing it. You may say, you will tell me 100 times, but I'm not going to change. Whereas, if he enjoys healthy relationship with somebody else, and that person comes to him and says, Prabhu, you are doing these things in a particular way, it will be helpful if you, do it differently. Then he's at least going to give some thought to it. So we have to, the relationship between the two persons plays a very important role in this. Jitendra Prabhu's last words, the words of wisdom.
Just words from, I remember this devotee he's a big book distributor, and he went out to the airport and he was very aggressive, but he's very at the top of the charts. But one person was aggravating him so much that he gave this devotee a gun and told him to go out and take care of this fella. And he gave the gun back to the devotee and he left the movement. So, people, and then Prabhupada, devotees would go out on book distribution and they'd be treated harshly by the person. And Prabhupada says, well, you did your duty, but everybody's acting out of their character, So we have to be wary of that, that's why I have so much respect for the book distributors, that these people are like monsters out there, a lot of them, Yeah. And, it's just the modes of nature. And then as far as following the regular principles in Kali Yuga, Prabhupada was very surprised that the devotees could do that in the beginning. But that was only due to surrendering to Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank
you. There's a very important point from what Jitendra Prabhu shared, that if you want to develop humility, go on book distribution. If you want to develop humility, go on book distribution. There, like he said, you come in contact with monsters, and you still cannot behave like one. You have to still behave like a devotee. So you learn humility. Okay. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.